My name is Wallace. I'm 57 years old and I've been laying pipe and fixing what other people break for a living since I was 26. Commercial plumbing, mostly, Knoxville, Tennessee. 31 years on the job, and I never missed a call until February of this year, when a disc in my lower back gave out on a concrete floor and my doctor told me I was not to drive for 8 weeks. My mother is 81 years old. She had her right hip replaced in January, and she needs physical therapy 3 times a week to get it back. The clinic is 22 minutes from her house in Farragut. I had been taking her since January, then I couldn't anymore. So I called my son-in-law. He laughed at me. Not a big laugh, a small one. The kind you give a stranger who asks you to hold their bags at the airport. He said, "Come on, Wallace. She's your mom, man. I've got a project deadline." He was working from home. He is always working from home. He said it loud enough that I could hear my daughter moving around in the kitchen behind him. She didn't say anything. Before I go any further, if you're up late watching this, and you know exactly what I mean by that laugh, drop your state in the comments. I want to know how many of us there are out here. Let me take you back to February, 3rd Tuesday of the month. Cold and gray, the kind of East Tennessee morning that can't make up its mind. I was on a job site in Maryville when I bent down behind a water heater, and something went wrong in my lower back. Not a pop, more like a slow spreading wrongness, like a wire pulling loose inside a wall where you can't reach it. I sat down on the floor right there. The young guy I had with me, 19, first year in the trade, drove me to urgent care. The MRI showed a herniated disc at L4, L5. The doctor was plain about it. No driving for 8 weeks, no lifting over 10 pounds, no prolonged sitting. She handed me the restrictions on a printed sheet and I read them in the parking lot, and I thought about my mother. My mother, Hazel, 81 years old, 4'11" in her good shoes, stubborn as old grout. She walks with a cane now because the hip is still healing and her balance isn't where it needs to be yet. 3 times a week, every week, she has a standing appointment at Summit Physical Therapy on Kingston Pike. Miss those sessions and the joint stiffens, the recovery extends, the whole recovery window shifts. She knows this. She has never once needed to be reminded. She is ready before I pull up. For 6 weeks before the back gave out, I was her ride. Pick her up at 7:40, clinic by 8, wait in the lobby an hour, bring her home. Our arrangement. No one had offered to help. I hadn't asked because I hadn't needed to, until February. I have one daughter, Clara, 29. Work as 3 days a week as a dental hygienist. The other 4 she's home. She and her husband Dustin moved into a house in West Knoxville 4 years ago. 3-bedroom brick house on a quiet street with a fig tree in the backyard that produces more than any family can reasonably eat. My house. I need to be clear about that because it matters later. I bought that house for cash in the summer, 4 years back. $172,000, every cent of it from savings I had been building since my wife passed. Clara and Dustin were renting a 1-bedroom apartment downtown. Money was tight because Dustin had changed jobs and they hadn't landed on their feet yet. I didn't want my daughter in a cramped apartment, so I bought the house and let them move in. I charged them $600 a month. The market rate for a 3-bedroom in that part of Knoxville was running between $1,300 and $1,400. I never told them that. I didn't think I needed to. I paid the property taxes myself. I handled the homeowner's insurance. When the HVAC compressor failed 2 winters ago, I wrote the check and didn't bring it up at Christmas. When they asked about Dustin's parking and whether the driveway could fit 2 cars, I said yes. Dustin thanked me at Thanksgiving once, called me an amazing father-in-law. He said it the way people say things they have practiced. My daughter hugged me and said she didn't know what they'd do without me. I didn't keep score. That is not how I was raised. My mother never kept score. You help your people. You do it because they're your people. But my back was out and I needed one thing. Twice a week, 22 minutes each way, sitting in a warm car with a quiet 81-year-old woman who would ask about your work and offer you a butterscotch from her purse. That was all I needed. Dustin said he had a deadline. My daughter said, "Daddy, can't she get a service? Doesn't Medicare cover that?" I didn't correct her right then. Medicare covers emergency ambulance transport. Non-emergency medical rides through a private service run $90 one way in Knox County. That is $180 round trip. 3 sessions a week. That's $540 a week. My disability pay while I healed was covering the basics, not that. I booked the service anyway and paid it out of savings. The first Tuesday I sat in my house and watched the clock move past 8:15 and tried not to think about whether my mother was ready by her front door at 7:30, which she was, because she didn't want to keep anyone waiting. She said exactly that when I called to check on her. The driver was very polite, she said. Don't make a thing out of it. She said it was fine. I logged it on a notepad I keep in the workbench drawer. Not because I planned anything, just because that's how I process. Dates, numbers, facts. February 11th, 180. February 14th, 180. On and on. The third week, I was on my back porch with a heating pad when I got a notification on my phone. My daughter had posted to the West Knoxville Neighborhood Watch Group, 112 members, mostly neighbors and people within a mile or two. She was writing about a zoning issue on their street. She used the phrase "our house" twice in the same sentence. I read it 3 times, not because it made me angry, because something in it made me stop. I went in and pulled the green hanging folder from my filing cabinet. The label on the tab is in my late wife's handwriting, House Clara. Inside, the deed, Knox County Register of Deeds. Sole owner, Wallace R. Mercer. No co-owners, no lien holders. Under that, 4 years of property tax receipts in my name. Under that, the homeowner's insurance policy, named insured, Wallace R. Mercer, with Clara and Dustin listed as resident occupants, not owners, residents in smaller print. Under that, the receipt for the HVAC compressor, my signature. Under that, the HUD-1 settlement statement from the closing. Cash purchase. Buyer, Wallace R. Mercer. I spread it all out on the kitchen table, and I sat with it. Then I put it away and went back to the heating pad. The next morning, a Thursday, Dustin texted me, not called, texted. Hey, been meaning to bring this up. We've been there 4 years, paying our share every month. Was thinking it might make sense to start working toward a rent-to-own arrangement. Build some equity. Clara agrees. Just something to consider, no rush. No rush. He had never once asked what the property tax rate was. He did not know the lot dimensions. He did not know his monthly payment was less than half the market rate. He had paid $600 a month to live in a house worth $190,000, and he wanted to discuss equity. I didn't answer that text for 3 days. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. A woman's voice, measured and careful the way people get after years of reading documents out loud. She introduced herself as Sheila Drummond from First Appalachian Credit Union. She said she was calling because Wallace Mercer was listed as the property owner of record at the address on Ridgewood Lane, and they had received a loan application from residents at that address, indicating ownership interest. Could I confirm? I asked her to repeat that. She said it again carefully. A home equity line of credit application. The applicant had checked the box indicating primary ownership of the property. Dustin had walked into a credit union and applied for a home equity loan on a house that was not his. Not his name on the deed, not his taxes, not $1 of the purchase price, and he had listed it as his own. I told Sheila Drummond I was the sole owner of record, that the property had never been transferred, and I'd send the deed by email that afternoon. She thanked me. Her voice was different when she said it. I sat down, then I went to a different part of the filing cabinet. In the back, a shoebox my wife had labeled medical, mom. Everything labeled, everything in place. Even after she was gone, I kept it up. In the front of the shoebox, a document in a clear sleeve. 3 years ago, at Easter dinner, I'd asked my mother if we could take care of some paperwork. She signed an advance directive and a durable medical power of attorney, naming me as her primary healthcare agent. The document included a paragraph I want to read carefully because it matters. My son, Wallace R. Mercer, is responsible for coordination of my medical transportation, including regular appointments for physical therapy and specialist care. This responsibility is known and acknowledged by my family. 2 witnesses had signed at the bottom. My daughter, Clara, and below her, her husband, Dustin, in his blocky block printing, with a ballpoint he had borrowed from Clara's purse. He had signed his name at my Easter dinner table. Then he went back to the living room and watched the Masters on my television. I called Frida Hutchins that Saturday. Frida is a real estate attorney who lives 3 houses down from me. Her husband Rudy and I have an informal arrangement. I've replaced every fixture in their house over the years, and Rudy mows my grass when my back acts up. I called her on a weekend, which is not the thing you do to someone who spent all week in a courtroom. She picked up anyway and said, "Wallace, are you in trouble?" I said, "I don't think so, but I need to understand what I'm holding." She came over. She sat at my kitchen table and read everything. The deed, the tax receipts, the insurance policy, the POA with Dustin's signature at the bottom, the note I'd written down from memory after the call with Sheila Drummond. She laid it all flat on the table. She looked at it for a moment. "You are the legal owner," she said. "He has no claim, no equity interest, no standing to use this property as collateral. What he filed at the credit union was a fraudulent application." "What does that mean for him?" "It means the loan won't close. It means the institution may refer it." She paused. "And it means someone at that credit union is now aware that this property belongs to someone else." I told her about my mother, about the transport costs, about the missed session, about the document at the bottom of the shoebox. She took her glasses off. "What do you want to do, Wallace?" I thought about that for a long while. I didn't want to throw my daughter out. I didn't want to wreck a marriage, even a troubled one. I didn't want to become the story told at every family gathering for the next 20 years. What I wanted was for my 81-year-old mother to get to her physical therapy appointments. I wrote a letter. Frida read it over and removed 2 sentences that would have made me sound angrier than I wanted to be. What was left was 1 page. I had it hand-delivered on a Wednesday morning. The letter said 3 things. 1. The property at 3318 Ridgewood Lane is the sole legal property of Wallace R. Mercer. The current occupancy arrangement is month-to-month, informal, and terminable by the owner with 30 days written notice. 2. Effective the 1st of next month, the monthly payment would adjust to market rate, $1,350, unless an alternative arrangement was reached. 3. The alternative. If Dustin agreed to drive my mother to her Tuesday and Thursday physical therapy appointments through the remaining 8 weeks of her recovery window, the rate would remain at $600 for the rest of the year, at which point we would sit down and revisit everything in writing. That was the offer. I asked for a response by Friday at 5. I didn't hear from them Friday. What I heard at 6:47 Saturday morning was my phone buzzing with a Facebook notification. My daughter had posted to the West Knoxville Neighborhood Watch group. I am going to read it to you exactly as she wrote it. "Need support from this community. My dad is trying to raise our rent by $750 a month with almost no notice, because I wouldn't let my husband be guilted into becoming a full-time caregiver for someone he barely knows. We've been good tenants for 4 years. This feels like retaliation, and it's really hurt our family. Prayers appreciated." 43 people liked it. 14 commented. A woman I had never met told my daughter to document everything. Someone else wrote that landlord harassment was real. A man around the corner from me, whose bathroom I retiled in 2019, who shook my hand when the job was done and said I was the most honest contractor he'd ever hired, wrote, "That's awful." I read every comment. I read them twice, sitting at the kitchen table at 7 in the morning with the light off. I did not reply to a single one. Then at 8:22, a new comment came in, short, 1 sentence, the kind someone types when they are choosing every word before they put it down. "Clara, I was at your Easter dinner 3 years ago, when your husband signed the document naming your father as your grandmother's sole medical caregiver. I hope you're all doing well." The comment was from Maxine, the woman who runs the front desk at Summit Physical Therapy. She had moved to West Knoxville the previous spring. She was in the neighborhood group. She lived 6 blocks from my daughter's house. Clara had no idea. The comment had one like when I first saw it. By the time I checked an hour later, it was gone. Clara had deleted the entire post. My phone rang, my daughter. She didn't say hello, she said, "Dad, I didn't know about the loan thing." I believed her. "I didn't know he did that, Queeter. What is she like?" "Grandma's person at the clinic. Maxine runs the desk. She's good people." A long pause. "Is Grandma okay?" "She will be. 8 more weeks of consistent PT and she'll be close to baseline." I heard my daughter start to cry the way she cries when she doesn't want you to hear it. Small, controlled. Her mother used to cry that same way. "Dad, I'm sorry." "I know you are." The following Tuesday, at 7:55 in the morning, a car pulled up to my mother's house on Callaway Drive. Silver Subaru, 4 years old, cracked rear bumper from a parking lot last winter. My daughter got out. She went up the front walk and knocked. My mother answered in her teal sweater, the one she saves for appointments, with her cane in her right hand and her purse already on her shoulder. I know this because I drove past, just once. I was not supposed to be driving. I went home and sat at the workbench for a while, without doing anything. Dustin never responded to the letter. He never agreed to the arrangement, and he never disputed it. The credit union application had been withdrawn. Frida called with that news the following Monday. He had contacted them directly and pulled it. No explanation given on record. The loan officer at First Appalachian Credit Union attended the same church as Dustin and Clara. I did not know that. I did not arrange it. Some things find their own level. I gave them 30 days formal written notice the following month. Not because I wanted them gone. Because Frida told me I'd been operating without a proper lease for 4 years, and I needed to correct that one way or another. I drew up a real lease this time. Market rate was $13.50. I wrote it at $900, not $600, because I'm not naive. Not $13.50 because she's still my daughter. Dustin signed the new lease without argument. I watched his face while he read it. Every page, every line, and something in the way he read it told me he had learned something in the previous 6 weeks. You sign things without reading them, and eventually the unread things find you. He signed his name at the bottom like a man who understood what a signature actually meant now. My mother finished her course of physical therapy on a Thursday in April. Maxine walked her out to the parking lot herself. She shook my daughter's hand and said, "She did beautifully. You should be proud of her." My daughter cried in the clinic parking lot. Not the quiet kind this time. My back healed. I'm driving again. I took my mother to the farmer's market 2 Saturdays ago. She bought tomatoes she didn't need, a jar of sourwood honey, and she argued with a vendor over blueberries until he came down 50 cents, at which point she bought 4 pints and walked away looking satisfied. Her cane swings a little when she moves now. Not like a necessity, more like a habit she's considering giving up. Here's what I've worked out after all of it. I've had months to turn it over, and I want to say it carefully. I spent 4 years being generous without ever being clear. I charged my daughter half the market rate and called it helping out. I paid the property taxes and called it family. I never sat down with a piece of paper and said, "Here is what I am contributing. Here is what I am asking in return. Here is the understanding between us," in writing, so we both know what it says. I assumed the understanding existed, because the generosity existed, and those are not the same thing. My mother figured this out long before I did. She had her wishes written down in a legal document, witnessed at a dinner table, filed away in a labeled shoebox. She did not assume the people around her would read her mind. She wrote it down and had someone sign it. Even Dustin signed it. He just never read what he signed. A favor without a frame isn't a favor. It's an open hand with no bottom to it. And open hands have a way of being taken for granted until the day they close. I still own the house. The deed is in the green folder in the filing cabinet. My wife's handwriting on the tab, faded a little now, but still clear. I've thought about transferring it to Clara's name, just hers, when the time is right. I'm not there yet, but I'm closer than I was in February. Last week I drove past the house on my way to a job. Clara's car was in the driveway. The fig tree in the backyard was already showing new growth. In September, she left a basket of figs on my porch with a note that said, "From our tree." 2 words, our tree. I thought about correcting it. Then I thought about the parking lot outside the physical therapy clinic. About the teal sweater. About the 50-cent blueberries. I decided she'd earned those 2 words. I let it stand.